on Zoom also that are listening. First, we have our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve everything on the consent agenda, items 1 through 7?
I make a motion.
Do it, Director.
What did he say?
Yeah, Travis made the motion, John.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have departmental reports. Item 1 would be Don Johnson, Public Works. Normally Steve, our township manager, reports on that, and he's on Zoom. Steve?
For Don?
Yes, we're done, Steve.
There's nothing really significant to report. They're out both clearing ditches and sweeping, some of the development roadways. So doing some work down at the park. So it's really, getting into the normal things of spring, which includes packing potholes off. So that's about it.
Thank you, Steve. Up next would be Christy, our administrative assistant. Christy?
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. First, I'd like to report that the vaccine clinic on May 6th at Cal High was for members of the public who had yet to receive a COVID-19 vaccine, and there were 85 people who received their first dose of the Moderna vaccine. The second dose will be administered on June 3rd, and we had 5 different volunteers from the township, including Tracy, thank you very much, and Scott Risbin, and we had the sister of one of the members of the partnership, and a couple of folks that came with Tracy, the volunteers, so thank you so much for that. There are a couple days left for submitting suggestions for naming the Brook that's being sponsored by the partnership. We have 18 suggestions thus far. We've got some really good ones. So the committee's meeting Saturday to whittle down the choices to 5 of the best. And the ballots will be available beginning Monday. We'll have ballots and boxes at both polling places. So folks, while they're standing in line, they can give their opinion on what to name the brook. So the voting will go until June 1st. Speaking of voting, the voting machines were delivered today, and there are going to be our 2 normal traditional voting precinct locations. The mail-in ballots are still an option, and there is a staff drop-off point
Up next, we have our township manager, Steve Landis.
Okay, just have a couple items to report. One is that the solicitor is working to finalize the West Brook Road dedication. So the first step in that is for the township to try and reclaim the funds that were used to bring the road and the stormwater system up to standards. And we're going to be submitting all of that information and cost to the bank that's still holding some financial security, some cash in the bank for completion of those items. So after that is finished, then we'll put together a typical dedication, road dedication document and get that to the Board of Supervisors for approval. And we hope this all happens before the snow flies this next season.
I'm optimistic about that, Steve.
This month, we'll have the first distribution to the fire company and EMS from the taxes collected to date. Now, we just received the April distribution of real estate tax, and so we will be getting that into their account and then figure out what we can send them. And we'll have checks prepared within the next week to go ahead and get out to each of them. We have a hearing for Helen Salvage on May 18th. The zoning officer and the solicitor will be there representing the township. The hearings for 4 citations that were written against them the last meeting. There are 2 each for parking the junk in between the fence and the roadway, and 2 for failing to have a junkyard. And the last item, as previously reported, that Arbor Committee had submitted their plan and was perhaps going to go to the Plan Commission. However, they were discussing some zoning issues with Mike at the time. They decided to go ahead and redesign their plan. Mike and I met with them recently to eliminate some of the zoning concerns that they had, and they'll be resubmitting it sometime in the near future. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. Item 4 would be Land Preservation Committee. And Christie, do you have any information on when their next meeting is, or?
There was no meeting last night, so their next meeting would be the third Tuesday in July.
In July.
Whatever date that is.
Okay. Thank you, Christie. And item 5 would be Parks and Rec. Christie, do you have some comments on that?
Oh, my daughter is prompting me that July 20 will be the land presence meeting. Thank you, Casey. Yeah, so Park and Rec is moving forward with their plans to have a movie night on June 11th with a rain date of June 18th.
planning commission. There are several members here of the planning commission tonight, Terry and Gary.
I'll just give the board a quick update, and then if planning commissioners have anything to add, we can go from there. We're looking at an agenda for next month. We're looking at a new submission for what we're calling the Maple Inn Estates Land Development Plans, the site of the Maple Inn. It was named Honeybrook Estates, but unfortunately we already have a development by that name, so they're going to have to change revised language on that end. But we'll see that for the first time. We're also seeing a revised submission for Mobile 3 Realty. We've seen that on a number of occasions. They're back for another review with the Planning Commission next month. And we also have one variance application as of right now for impervious coverage and I believe a setback issue. So that'll also be reviewed for recommendation for the next meeting. And Gary or Terry, do you have anything to add?
I know our manager was disappointed that the planning commission neglected to take action on supporting the comprehensive park and rec plan, phase one of that. And have you read this document? You read the comprehensive park and rec and open space document?
No.
Well, I did, and the number one question that the planning commission was asking was, the first phase isn't listed in here as the first phase. It looks like there's items picked out of the various areas. So number one, that was number one. And how's this whole program going to be funded? When you look at the plan that was sent along from Steve, there's 4 phases to Humboldt Park. First phase is like $700,000. And when you add up like all the phases, it becomes a pretty significant amount of money. And I did read in here that the land preservation funds can be used for that. So the question was, are the funds already there, or is it going to continue to be taxpayer burden and taxpayers to fund some of this? But phase...
I can answer that, Gary, and then I can answer questions as we go along. But first of all, as I had mentioned to you, I guess in one of our exchanges of email, the funds for phase one are available sitting in the recreation account. So the $225,000 state will be coming when we draw that down, and the $525,000 that is required from the township is sitting there in the recreation account, and it is specified for this particular purpose. Now, as far as future funding goes, as we know, it's the responsibility of the board each year to set a budget, and, the other phases of this thing are going to be completed as monies are available, and as the Board of Supervisors at that time adopt or put funds into the budget. So that's really the budget part. There is no additional burden to taxpayers. There's really no additional maintenance costs in this thing. There's certainly changes to the plan. Many of them are to support the ball fields that are there. Well, actually, the ball fields that will be there, but they'll be reduced to 2, so that all of the additional parking needs can be accommodated. And there'll be changes to the ball fields. And I should point out that the Twin Valley Little League is the support of the plans to move forward as they were presented to you as the planning commission.
Okay, and I do recall that the phase one was pretty well covered. I was more worried, I think we were all worried about, Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but we were more worried about the additional funds. And one of the reasons is when you look at the phasing plan that you attach to your email, there's 4 phases, and the first phase reduces the number of parking from 49 to 20, and then the additional parking isn't going to be added until phase 3. And I've been at that park for baseball games, and your 20 spaces, I think is gonna be really undersized. So if what I'm understanding is when the funds become available, you'll do the subsequent phases, how long of a time is it gonna be that facility is gonna have to rely on 20 parking spaces? It seems like the parking should be earlier, but I don't want to get into a lot of detail. I did read this document, and I have lots of questions, and there's some inaccuracies, but we can talk about that later. Another concern was,
Well, and we can certainly talk about all those topics later. And by the way, the phases aren't necessarily going 1 through 3. The next phase that's been designated for completion is phase 3, not phase 2. And it is the parking phase.
but you don't know when that's going to happen, correct?
What's that?
You don't have any idea when that's going to happen. You're going to need the funds for that, correct?
Well, obviously we need the funds.
So then the answer is you don't know when it's going to happen.
Supervisors put away $400,000 towards that project this year. And so that started building up the funding, and there'll be an opportunity, to put away more money next year, and obviously to try and get grants. But the thing I want to point out to make it very clear to the Board of Supervisors and also to the Planning Commission members present is that what I had requested is an item that the state requires when doing all their grant programs. And that is for the Planning Commission to provide a letter that says that this particular project meets the recreation needs of the community. That's all that it is. It doesn't talk about where the funding is coming from or, any of these other side issues. So I understand why people would be interested in knowing, and I'll certainly be glad to give them that information. But it's strictly does this follow what the township planning is for recreation in the future?
Well,
And the
adequate.
answer to that question is yes, it does. And that's the only thing that we're looking for in that letter.
Well, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, Steve, because adequate parking is one of the things that's in the comprehensive plan. And we're not against this. Don't misunderstand. It's just that you're asking us to support something that there's a lot of questions. I'll give you another question that was brought up in the Planning Commission, and these aren't my questions. Some of them are, but the township is going to put money into those baseball fields, but the residents are telling us that they can't use those fields, that it's exclusive use for Twin Valley Baseball. Many of the people, even I think the person that runs that program, doesn't even live in the township. So we're going to improve a facility that the township people and their kids can't use. Is that a correct statement? I mean, I don't know that for a fact. That's just what we were told. That people went to use that field and they were told.
Here again, Gary, that's not what the Planning Commission is asked to do. Make comments.
Okay, then we're not going to agree to it then, because these are legitimate questions that the Planning Commission is asking, and I know you're going to hang your hat on
Oh,
that.
I know that, but, the recreation comprehensive plan, which was made part of the township plan, you could have brought up these questions at that time.
No, that's not true.
We're talking about this particular project right now, these grant funds from the state. They want to know if this project, is furthering the township's recreation goals. And it is. Now, you might have many other questions and legitimate questions. And I'll be glad to sit down and talk with you about them. Or maybe even, the planning commission could have a joint meeting with the recreation and park board. But it's really not the topic of this particular issue, which is to say,
This is John. Yeah, I'd like to just make a recommendation. The presentations that were made in the past, they were done at workshops. Not everybody was able to attend them. And that's another reason why we should record
plan was not part of the comp plan that we did for the township, because one was done in 15, the other was done in 2020. So,
No, but Gary, when the comp plan for the rec plan was adopted, it was adopted as an addition to the 2015 plan. So it is part of the township's comp plan.
all right, well, I suggest that maybe we get that meeting that John is suggesting as soon as possible, because I don't know if we're holding up your plan. We don't want to hold up the progress of this. We do have the parking concern is a big concern, because that's going to be problematic for using the fields when you get into whatever it's the spring or fall season, because 20 spaces is not going to be adequate. But I'd say, Terry, you have anything to add?
I just drove by the park there on the way in here, and it was packed.
More than 20 cars?
I would say more like 40.
Well, how soon do you think you can make that happen, Steve? I think that would be very productive.
I couldn't hear that, Gary.
How soon do you think you can make that meeting happen with the planning commission? Is it possible that, let's see what, this is it'll be 2 weeks. Our planning commission meeting in 2 weeks? Could we get it? If we could do that. What's
Yeah,
that?
May 27th.
Okay, that's 2 weeks from this Thursday. So if we can do that, then probably I would say that there's a good possibility that we could get the supported letter that you're looking for.
Gary, I agree with you, parking is hard there right now, but there's more cars than in the parking lot. People just park along the back hill there. That's what they've been doing.
Not according to this plan, they won't be able to get there. That will be blocked, according to this phase one, because that's where all the improvements are going. So when you would pull into the parking lot, 20 spaces are to the right, and then all the amenities that are going to be built there are going to fill that grass area, and there's only going to be a walking trail that's going to connect to the back section. So your overflow parking is going to be eliminated. And I'm fine. I'm fine if we have a meeting. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, we
And
should
we'll
go.
have our list of questions and
Yeah, we should, I think, I'll come to it. I'll come to it.
I don't think we have, is Mobile 3 going to be there? Are they going to be?
We are, a resubmission, yeah.
Is that, and what's the other one?
The Maple Inn plan, Gary did special exceptions, so that'll be a new development.
Okay, so it might be, that's fine, it might be a longer night. Okay, yeah. I would like to get this resolved.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can
Now you
hear you.
can, Steve, yeah.
It'd be great to get it resolved this month. So,
Oh, wait, he's saying something.
Last part, Gary was asking when a meeting could be set up.
Yeah.
Yes, I think he was suggesting the planning commission meeting, Steve.
and Steve, I don't, if Park and Rec members can't be there, I'm sure, you know, you probably know as many of the answers as they do. You're probably as familiar with the document and what's being proposed.
Is that what we were talking about, when a meeting could set up, be set up?
Yes,
Good.
and we'll zoom in if you want to zoom in.
Gary and Sherry, and we'll see what we can do.
All right, sounds good, thank you, appreciate the time.
Sure. Sorry about getting cut off.
Okay. Well, forum.
Back in the sun.
Would anybody on the right side over here like to say anything in open forum? Gary, Carmella? No. Gary, anything else?
No, I'm just trying to get away from the sun.
Okay.
I'm not chasing your public comments.
You don't get two turns if you move.
I gave it up, I'm sorry.
Anybody on the left side of the room? No? Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot the Zoom people, I apologize. Any Zoom attendants have anything they'd like to say? Nobody said?
No, I think
Okay. All right. Then we move on to new business. Motion to approve or not approve the payment of all invoices prepared by the treasurer. Do I hear a motion to approve?
John? I'm going to motion to approve.
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. A motion to adopt or not adopt a resolution approving the sewage planning module for Mobile Realty 3, 2232 Horseshoe Pike for submission to the PA Department of Environmental Protection.
I make the motion to adopt.
And do we need to talk about it at all?
Well, I was actually going to say, we skipped over a few items on the agenda, but we can take care of this now if you'd like.
Really?
That particular, we'll go back to the regular agenda after we can talk about this now. This is a planning module submission that's required of any new development that has additional sewage flows being generated. So this is a document that gets reviewed by the township as well as our office, and then that gets submitted to the DEP for their review and comment. So your authorization on this would merely just be for the planning module. It does not involve plan approval, but that gives the right for the township to then forward it to DEP for their comments.
I make the motion to adopt.
I'm missing the whole second page.
Are you? I'll give
Mine
you-
went right to page
I'll give
3,
you
that's
mine.
why I did that.
Mine do too.
Yeah, I don't have page 2.
So if you want to take a vote or a discussion or questions on this, and then we can jump back to the other items.
Yeah, I'm sorry, so
Yeah, what item number on this agenda was that?
7.
Okay, got it. So, I'll take the out number item today is draft 68. Item 7, I'll make the motion to adopt.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Um,
I could read it off myself, but
You can use that.
Thanks. Sorry, let's get back to item 2. Robert Muir lot add-on plan, 620 Supply Road, and there's going to be a presentation.
Is anyone here for that plan this evening or on Zoom? If not, I will review that with the board, if that's okay with you. This is a property actually involving 2 different properties, Supply Road and Pleasant View Road, which is right up here, obviously. But it is a subdivision of 2 parcels of land off of each of the adjacent properties. It's about 1.5 acres that's being subdivided from each property and added to the lot that is owned by Mr. Mura. That will increase the size of his lot to approximately a little over 4 acres. The other tracts will remain intact. They're used for agricultural use. There's no improvements or other disturbances proposed with the plan. So it's a fairly simple lot add-on plan. We did a review of the plan dated April the 14th. We reviewed that with the Planning Commission. There was a recommendation made for conditional final plan approval based on that review letter. And there was also a waiver that was requested after the Planning Commission meeting was held. So you don't have a recommendation on this for monuments for the new lots that are being created. So we have no objection to to that waiver request. That is fairly typical, that they would not provide monuments, they would merely provide pins. So that is the waiver that's before you this evening for those 2 items. Again, conditional plan approval and the approval of the waiver. So if you have any questions, I can certainly go over those, or those would be the 2 motions before you tonight.
Okay. So do I hear a motion for item 2 on the agenda for the granting items A and B?
I make the motion to grant.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item 3 on the agenda, Pleasant View Welding, major land development, 100-102 Reservoir Road.
And yes, tonight we do have Todd Shofis here from Pioneer Management. So what I'll ask Todd to do is just give you a brief summary of what the project entails, and then I can jump in and explain what the planning commission's recommendations were.
Good evening. I did bring the presentation board. Would that be helpful to?
Okay.
Would you like me to set up the easel, or maybe I can just set it on the chair in front of you?
Yeah, if you can just set it up here on the chair, that's fine.
Sure, thank you.
Sorry
Is that
about
okay?
that.
Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Todd Schiff. I'm with Pioneer Management, and I'm here representing Pleasant View Welding, now known as Metal. The subject tract is approximately 7.6 acres. It's actually comprised of 4 different parcels. It's located on the north side of Route 322, east of Reservoir Road, and west of Poplar Road, so bounded by three roadways. Currently, the tract is occupied by a residential building, a barn, some outbuildings for the old farm, and then also the current Pleasant View Welding manufacturing building. And that's the, I'll call it the Z-shaped, converted Z-shaped building. That building was constructed in multiple phases, just one expansion after another after the other. Access into that industrial use is via Reservoir Road, and the existing farm buildings have 2 points of access along 322. Pleasant View Welding is looking to expand their business. They're doing well, they need more space, and they do steel fabrication. And currently what's happening is their product is coming in, being unloaded in front of the building, and sometimes it sits out in the weather. They want to get that material out of the weather and get it inside the building. So what they're proposing to do is to construct a approximately 57,000 square foot new building, a little closer to Horseshoe Pike, remove the farm buildings that are somewhat disarray, and also remove one of the existing expansions off of the existing building. Access would remain from Reservoir Road, and new proposed access point would be on Poplar. Now that would be a one-way out only, and tractor trailers and trucks would not use that facility, or that access, I should say. It's only for vehicles, I should say. Other site improvements would be stormwater management, where we propose 2 infiltration basins and bioretention basins along the front of 322. We propose 60 parking stalls that would meet the requirements of the ordinance for 1 stall, or 1.5 stalls per employee. And Pleasant View Welding anticipates a maximum build out with 40 employees. We are currently working through obtaining a PennDOT highway occupancy permit for roadway improvements, which would include the northwest radius improvement of Poplar and 322, both radiuses for Reservoir and 322, and then installation of a center turn, left turn lane heading eastbound on Horseshoe Pike so that vehicles can make a left on the Reservoir. All traffic in general will enter the site through the existing access drive. Again, only vehicles will be permitted to exit onto Poplar. We have submitted plans to the fire company, and we did receive approval from them as it relates to emergency access. As part of our exhibit process, we did provide turning templates for a ladder truck to be able to access from Reservoir and also come into Poplar in the event that this access point was ever blocked. Other proposed site improvements would be landscaping along the perimeter of the tract, which is shown with the trees on all 3 sides, and we propose to utilize the existing vegetation on the north side of the property and maintain that as required screening. The tract currently now is served with on-lot water and on-lot sewer. We propose to connect both public water, public sewer. Plans were submitted to both authorities. We do have water and sewer capacity. We're just waiting for design approvals from those. We have submitted plans to the Conservation District for ES approval. We're waiting their review. We did submit plans to DEP for an NPDES permit.
You are muted.
And we did receive comments from DEP. We're working through those now. The PennDOT plans did come through to the township did sign them, and now they are in PennDOT's hands, and PennDOT is reviewing the HOP itself. We are in receipt of the township engineer's April 16th comment letter.
I believe
I was just
the
gonna say,
office code.
Is that us? Is that us? Can you hear us now?
Mike?
Number
The
7.
host would like you to unmute your microphone. You can press star 6 to unmute. You are unmuted.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, now can.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
It muted on its own.
Didn't like what you were saying.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Quite right. So we are in receipt of the township engineer's April 16th review letter. We did discuss some of those comments during the planning commission meeting. We did make a resubmission back to the township engineer addressing those April 16th comments. There are, in our opinion, a few outstanding housekeeping items to address, but we are working with the engineer to ultimately address his letter in its entirety. During the prior planning commission meeting, the plan was recommended for approval, as well as the multiple waiver requests that were submitted. I'd be happy to go over each and every comment if you like, each and every waiver if you like, or I can answer any questions you may have.
And just to supplement what Todd was saying, we did review this with the planning commission. There were several waivers that were discussed. They're outlined in your April 16th letter that provides the recommendations for you for those waivers under saldo. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe, of those. And then there's 3 stormwater waivers in addition to the recommendation for conditional plan approval that you'd be looking at tonight. So you could be looking at 3 separate motions for the items on the waiver list and conditional approval. So if the board has any questions about any of the waivers, I would be glad to chime in as well. We have no objections to any of those that are being requested. There's been considerations with some of the design parameters that have been done into this design to address our concerns as they relate to the waiver requests. So I'll entertain questions at this point if the board has any.
I don't have any questions.
John, I don't have questions, Mike.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah, I think it was well explained, so.
If there's no further questions, do we need a motion?
Yes, we need a
Yeah, we
motion.
need a motion.
Okay, I'll make item A, the first 6 several waivers. I make the motion to grant.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Under B, the motion to grant the stormwater, the 3 waivers. I make the motion to grant.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item C, motion to grant conditional final plan approval. Make a motion to grant.
I make the motion to grant.
Okay, so all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks.
Nice evening. Yep, you too.
Okay, item 4, which I think I put in.
You have that one?
I don't support it.
Yeah, no, not 4.
Number 7.
Item 4, Hewitt minor subdivision plan 570 Meadow Drive.
Yes, and I'll explain this one for the board. I don't believe there's anyone present for this. What this is a proposed 2-lot subdivision that's located on Meadow Drive, which is partially located within Honeybrook Borough and Honeybrook Township. The new lot that's being proposed on Meadow Drive is the portion that actually falls within Honeybrook Township. So what the request is from the applicant is to defer plan review of the subdivision itself, because the majority of it lies within the borough. However, there's a condition that we're looking for to provide the ultimate right-of-way within the portion of Honeybrook Township, and also review the stormwater management plan for that lot, because the runoff does run into Honeybrook Township. So that review would then fall under our office's review to make sure it complies complies with township ordinances. So your motion tonight would essentially be to defer plan review of this to the borough with those two conditions, the right-of-way being added and the stormwater management being reviewed by the township engineer. So are there any questions about that?
In Middle Drive, that's just before Todd Road.
Yes, it's just, I believe it's just south, John, of Todd Road.
Yeah, okay, got it. Thank you.
I make a motion to defer.
Okay.
John?
Did, Travis, you made the motion to defer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item 5 on the agenda, Chestnut Ridge Lighting Adjustment Phase 1.
Yes, and I'll also explain this one for the board. This is, everyone is familiar with the Chestnut Ridge Phase 1 subdivision plan. I'm looking for my plan. But essentially, there were streetlights that were required as part of that development plan that needed to go in Phase 1. They were located at both intersections and also throughout the development to provide basically for security lighting, safety reasons, for the geometry of the roadway, and for the residents that would be using that development. 6 of the 7 streetlights have been installed. However, there is one located in the vicinity of Lot 69 that has not been installed. And I don't know if the board has a plan, but that's highlighted right there. This comes off of Greaston Road here, the new road, and the highlighted is the location of the light that we're talking about. I believe there was an issue with the electric utility company that they either missed that on their plan or didn't provide the location on their install. So the developer is requesting a waiver of providing that light. So this was reviewed by the Planning Commission. They recommended denying the request and providing the light as proposed on the approved subdivision plan. And again, because the future phases 2 and 3 also provide streetlights throughout the development, not necessarily just at intersections, but throughout the development along the roadways.
I make a motion to deny.
John, can you hear that?
John, that was a motion to deny the request by the
Yeah,
developer.
I think the odd numbers, I'll second.
All in favor?
Go ahead, I second.
Okay.
I will agree to the deny.
Okay. Item 6, a motion to accept or not accept the time extension offered by Mobile Realty 3 until July 14, 2021 before the Board of Supervisors must render a decision on the pending preliminary plan application for the mobile home park at 2232.
And just so the board is aware, this is a typical request that we would hear. They're working on outside agency approvals. In addition, they've already submitted a revised plan. However, their time limit runs out before action on that plan can happen. So they're giving you additional time in order to review and make action on that preliminary plan.
And do I hear a motion to allow the extra time?
Go ahead, make the motion, Travis.
I make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, here, you can have your paper back. Now I have,
Okay.
then I have something right.
My screen keeps shutting off, so I no problem.
Okay, now 7 is already taken care of, right?
Yes.
Okay, but I believe there's a 7.5 that doesn't exist on my paper. Mike, you have that?
Yes, that's number 8 on mine. You need
Okay.
that?
Yeah, 86, yeah.
You want it back?
Yeah, maybe. Thanks. Okay. 8. A motion to appoint or not appoint Gennaro J. Rocky Evento, 16 Cherry Drive, Honeybrook, to a 3-year term on the Honeybrook Township Community Library Board ending May 31st, 2024.
Can we go to the resume number, you want to make a motion?
I make the motion to appoint.
And here a
I'll
second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 9, a motion to approve 7 financial security releases as recommended by Technicon. Items A through G. Thank
You
you.
got that page?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, G, A through G.
Yeah, A through G. Do I hear a motion to approve the security releases as recommended?
Just give a second, just double checking, looking at the most of these are in the range of, less than 10,000 on these releases. Just doesn't,
F
yeah, okay, I make a motion to approve, financial security releases.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item 10, other new business. John, do you have any other new business?
None to raise, but I'm all business.
Okay, yes. Next up is old business, and I think that we should, in fact, talk about what we have listed here as old business, which is the salary.
Steve did present earlier and stated that on the 18th of election day, they had a hearing. So, by the way, is that under Judge Everett's office, like court?
What did you say?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, he says it at Judge Paper's office.
Yes, this is surgeon, yes, okay. And so, what we've seen in the past, he's ignored us, and I mean, what happens if we rush? What are the steps there? That's what I was trying to understand, is to get the enforcement in place there. Because he's operating without a license, he's causing a nuisance, pulling vehicles on the road, he's ignoring things that he's supposedly has agreed to.
I have a question. Were we able to
You update
confirm
us.
that he was operating without a license?
Yeah, he does not currently have a township license for the junkyard. There have been in the past licenses issued when it was run and operated by his father, but I think we did get him to apply for a license, but as part of the application, Technicon performs an inspection, and that found deficiencies such that the license was not issued, I think going back, about a
What
year.
about the state license? Have we been able to confirm if he has a state license?
We haven't been able to, Steve has been digging into that through some of the local representatives and liaisons with the state government and hasn't gotten anything clear on that at this point. Steve, I don't know if you want to chime in more on that. I haven't been leading the charge on looking at that side of it.
Are we allowed to ask, I don't know what the rules are, but
Sure.
are we allowed to ask him for his state license? Like, because I have state licenses like that, and you have a paper that says here's my license. Right? That's not-
The state licensing for that is outside of our jurisdiction. Basically that is the state's realm.
Okay,
Yeah. And it's not a condition of our license at the township that, and I honestly, on junkyards, I'm not sure if there's But I don't know if there's sort of preemption. There's some areas where the state regulates it, the township can't, regulate the same, or require that license per se, but, Steve, do you want to chime in on what your efforts have been on that front with the state?
Sure. Yeah, apparently the only thing that we found that was any enforcement information was that Jason Home is required to have a license from PennDOT that has to do with his having to maintain titles to those vehicles that he has on site and the process to go through when he disposes of them. And that is enforced by the Pennsylvania State Police. So far, we haven't found any requirement by the state to have a quote-unquote junkyard license. Apparently, there is some form of permit or license needed from DEP governing the oil or other fluids coming from these vehicles. But we've been unable so far to find out who exactly
And so, I mean, I guess my take on this is, all of the state agencies and outside parties that have some authority, you know, are avenues that we could pursue if we believe that he's in violation of their regulations. I don't know that we necessarily know those answers, you know, in terms of what the requirements are on those fronts, and we could try to make those complaints and wait and see if those agencies do anything. And, you know, but I'm not sure if that's the best solution for Honeybrook, who wants this fixed sooner than later. You know, we've done this round of citations. We've been to court with him twice. Once was over a year ago, I think, at this point, or maybe it was last summer. And it got better for a little while, and then it got worse, as we're all aware. So we went back to the citations again to hope that that would be a incentive, you know, for him to come into compliance. And it pretty much hasn't. So we filed more citations on 2 different dates in mid-March and early April. That's what's the subject of the hearing next month.
I was just thinking of it as an additional pressure point.
Well, no, I agree, and I don't think that's a bad strategy, you know, but I agree that he seems to just be ignoring the township. I mean, Steve asked me if he's gonna have the same attorney. He didn't even have an attorney at the last hearing. He just kind of showed up and pled with the judge that, you know, he should just have more time to clean things up because he's trying, which I don't think he's trying. I mean, from what it looks like, and, you know, there's not really ever happening. So I'm not sure, honestly, I'm not sure that more fines are going to change anything. So, I mean, and I have brought this up in the past. We could seek an injunction from the county court, basically identify the fact that he is in violation of ordinances, that there are health and safety concerns related to this, and go before the county court, who has the authority to issue a court order, basically to shut him down. And at that point, if there's a court order, he can be held in contempt of court. There's much more serious penalties, I mean, up to and including imprisonment. That's obviously not what we want for this gentleman, but I think that's probably the next step that would get his attention.
How long does that take? Is that like a 10-month get on the docket thing, or what's that look like?
I would have, no, it would not need to be that long. I mean, we could try to file some type of preliminary emergency injunction. I don't think that's gonna fly where we've sort of lived with this for a while. I'm not sure that the issues are that acute, but you could try to get some kind of preliminary injunction from the court to at least require him to take certain actions while we resolve the rest of the issues. And that could be a matter of a couple months.
Right, we have a situation where Sunday morning, 8 o'clock, the residents are hearing this crushing noise. We've got heavy equipment out there, moving things around, he's stacking them close to the fence, close to the streets and so forth. What does the resident do?
You know, John, for all of this, I think any additional evidence of violations and activity that violates our rules and creates health and safety concerns, we need to document, we need to figure out who is seeing it, and ideally those people would be witnesses and willing to testify about some of the activity. I mean, if we have at least photo documentation, video documentation, that's helpful. I know you're aware we used, you know, that as a tool in some other locations where we needed to do enforcement on noise issues. You know, that's helpful. At the end of the day, if we do go for any of these violations, I think the totality of it will be helpful. So just the fact that he doesn't have a license, you know, is one thing, but the fact that he's parking those cars where he is, the fact that he's got vehicles sitting in the roadway at certain times blocking traffic, you know.
But it's a safety hazard.
Yeah, it's absolutely a safety hazard, but I mean, we sort of need those in the vicinity who are seeing this regularly to be the eyes and ears to document what's happening.
Yeah, and just to, I'll chime in just a little bit here, John. And just so the board's aware, Technicon is by there almost on an every other day basis. I'm doing inspections like twice a week, 3 times a week at Chestnut Ridge. We habitually make a pass Coleman's. And frankly, I'll be honest with you, the condition has just continued to progressively got worse. So I drove by as late as this afternoon, and it was so solid with vehicles. If something happens in the back of that, there is no way anyone's getting in or out of there.
Right.
And I've seen that on a regular basis. So I guess the question for the board, and I'm in agreement with you. I think it's time, and I would recommend that we move into another
So the
level
next
of
one.
enforcement, because obviously we could file citations on a weekly basis with the district justice. We'll wait for the hearing to happen, which takes time too. I think you're probably better off moving in another direction, moving into some more up in the ante, so to speak, with this, just given the fact that he has not been cooperative with us, the attorney's office or anyone else, so.
Yeah. And even, I mean, honestly, the last hearing, I told him, look, you got lucky, the judge gave you fines, but they're pretty minimal, but the township's not gonna back down on this, sort of get it together, pretty much. Yeah, you said I talked to him too.
Yeah, I talked to him, and I think you talked to him.
And he didn't seem fazed at all by kind of the threats, and so that's unfortunate, but I think we need to.
On a Sunday morning, he had a business in a residential area. I mean, he's probably been there before everybody else, but, you've got people are sleeping on a Sunday morning. Can he go out there at 8 o'clock in the morning and start working on his yard? Is that permitted or not?
John, I'd have to pull up the junkyard regulations. I don't have the exact hours in front of me. It's chapter 10 of the township code has the requirements for junkyards, and it has the hours in there that it's allowed to operate. I mean, my guess is, 7 a.m. on a Sunday is probably outside of the permitted hours.
7 to 10 noise ordinance.
Well, I have a noise ordinance, but there's also hours in the junkyard ordinance specific to that operation.
Yeah. It says that he can operate 7 days a week.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking, can he operate 7 days a week?
I am trying to pull up that code section right now to answer you. I apologize, I just don't know it by heart.
Yeah, I don't expect it, but that's the kind of thing that, so in a situation like this, sort of West Back Steve, his business was there for a number of years. So when all the homes are being built in the area, is he still within the zoning for that business?
Well, he has the right to that business as long as he's there.
Yeah.
Or whoever he was telling to be there. That's something, the right to that business doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the township does have the ability to impose certain health and safety regulations, which is what is in chapter 10, which is the junkyard specific regulations. Those are totally outside of zoning, and we 100% have the ability legally to enforce those regulations to keep, he can have a junkyard, but he has to comply with our rules for junkyards.
Yeah. Mm. Okay. So I can recommend that to when a resident has a call and township is not open on a Sunday morning, so they are supposed to go out and film them, or what's the advice that we're going to give the residents to give them some measure of relief?
I mean, I don't think that is essential for us to move to the next level of court enforcement on this. But yeah, I mean, if more than just, we either need that person to testify as to what they saw, because they're the only person that is aware of what was happening, or to, at the very least, take photographs, and maybe get an affidavit that says, yes, these are the conditions I observed.
Yeah. We're building a case, and then, so what we do, we just start filling up a folder in the township office. I mean, I can pass by on Sunday, 5 p.m., and he had the front door in front of him, putting a load of junk in his, throwing all his junk away and stuff, and, it was pretty close to the road.
pleading with the court tomorrow. And, I mean, we can, the initial pleading with the court, we don't have to attach photographs and all of this. We just have to cite all of the things and ways in which he is creating these nuisances and dangers to the community. And then it's his opportunity to respond, you know, and, I mean, we may, if we seek a preliminary injunction right up front to get the court to curtail some of the activity, need to provide some of that evidence. But again, I really think we have what we need already to get there. That doesn't mean we shouldn't stop. I mean, we should continue so
I
that,
was gonna say, one thing is, this is a, you know, larger step than issuing citations. Issuing citations, we handle, you know, through the office, and that's part of the routine administrative work that's done.
Yes.
However, I think it's a great, you know, a great thing to do, but I think it should be authorized. I think the board should authorize the solicitor to move forward with this action. I think that would be a good thing for the board to do.
Yeah, do I hear a
And
motion to move forward?
I have one question for Travis. Travis?
Yes.
Yeah. So you've been on the property. Do you think it's a matter of poor maintenance on the part, or, you know, it doesn't have enough room left on the property? What's your observation?
I don't think it's enough room left on this property.
Enough room. So you've got more stuff there that needs to handle, and that's requiring it backing down the street. And do you agree? Is that the case?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So the board is being asked to take the next step. What was that?
Yeah, I want to make a motion, John, to go ahead and give Beth permission to go ahead and take the county citation. Go ahead and take that next step.
Could you formulate that in a motion?
do you want me to do it?
Motion?
Sure. Looking for a motion from the board to authorize the solicitor to file a civil complaint with the Chester County Court of Common Pleas seeking an injunction and any other necessary relief to address the concerns at Helms Junkyard.
Thank you. Do
Okay,
I,
I'll make the motion.
and do I hear a second?
I have a question. Should I sustain this if I understand the word of the township? That way,
You can, I mean, if you feel that that's a better option for you, just to avoid any appearance of conflict, I think that's fine.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, so.
All in favor? Take your part. Go ahead.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I will delve into that right away, and, you know, I mean, John, my advice to you would be, if you are talking to those folks, you know, I know people may not want to get involved, but the more evidence of the variety of violations that are happening, the better. You know, John, I encourage you to take a look at that chapter 10, just to see what the rules are, because we're well aware that within the fence, there's other violations. You know, without search warrants, we can't see those, but we're not as imminently concerned about those as the things that are impacting the roadway. And so, you know, the residents and
How do you get search warrants to get in there and make sure what else?
you have to establish probable cause, you know, and I think we have that honestly based on the inspections that Technicon has done. I think at this point, that's not essential to get at least the process started, because there are concerns. I know.
Yeah, it's a little different than when we would normally ask for a search warrant to search a home or a dwelling or something like that.
Right.
I think if you start with the process that Beth suggested, you will eventually get to that point. But I think we're starting from the road standpoint, the safety health issue. I think that's the way to go to start.
Yeah, because that's going to be a whole nother sort of administrative process and cost and service and
Right.
possible hearing, you know, and I just don't think it's necessary to get,
And we're just gonna get overwhelmed with more
you know,
violations.
let's get in front of a judge who has
You
the
gotta
ability
get
to make him stop what he's doing, you know, and we can then
So can
pursue the additional things that we want.
Can we communicate to the residents, if they ask what the township is doing? Is that something we can share with them, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would hesitate to share too publicly all of the nuance of litigation as it progresses, but the fact that, I mean, we're on the record right now in a public meeting saying that you're authorizing the solicitor to take court action. I mean, I think that that's fine. And I think you owe that, frankly, to the people that have been suffering this, to let them know that you are moving forward with certain action.
Okay, that's very good, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else on that?
Okay, we have open forum again. Does anyone like to say anything here on the right? What? Zoom? Anybody on Zoom?
Dan, you want to speak?
I have nothing
Okay.
interesting on the questions, actually, with them anyway.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I generally read the meetings off. May 17th is the zoning hearing board at 7:30. Tentative home court advantage variance application regarding Keystone Court Mobile Home Park Edition. May 18th, primary election day. May 20th, Recreation and Parks Board. May 27th, Planning Commission. June 2nd, Board of Supervisors Workshop. June 9th, Board of Supervisors meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming
I have
out.
a question on the May 27th Planning Commission meeting. If we are discussing the park, the Oval Park, do we meet earlier, or is it just meet at the same time, or is it going to cut into the Planning Commission's meeting time?
I think it probably confused people meeting earlier, right?
Same time, fine.
Yes.
Same time.
Yeah.
Is Gary still there?
Yeah, Gary said same time, John. He suggested just keeping the time the same.
Keep it at 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for everyone coming